Okay, so this month we bashed Pokemon and we praised Pokemon. Now let's meet in the middle and actually just discuss Pokemon. Hey everyone, it's the Koopa Man. Back in February this year, Nintendo announced new titles in the Pokemon series to come to Switch later this year, those being Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. Now, in the past, this would be great news, but after the release of Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, it leaves a lot of conflicting feelings coming to the surface. So many that I already made a video about their biggest mistake. Go watch it! Anyway, earlier in the year as well, Pokemon Legends Arceus was released, and while I have yet to play it myself, it's on my checklist, I swear, my friends who have played it say it's a spectacular game that really revitalizes the series after Sword and Shield did an Amber Heard in the bed. But enough bashing on Sword and Shield for now. Let's talk about the new games. So in June, the second trailer was released, giving more details on the games, and immediately, at least to me, the graphics look like a major step up from, well, N64 Hyrule trees. Now it isn't perfect photorealistic textures, I mean they still have the Hyrule tree, and there isn't any stunning 4K or drop shadows or rotoscoping or blast processing or whatever fancy buzzwords that graphics simps are using, but it's passable. These look like the graphics for a $60 game. The Pokemon themselves look alright too. Of the ones that have been revealed so far, they look like a complete return to form. More natural looking designs, they look like, well, Pokemon. It really is a day and night comparison. Whereas Sword and Shield had over-designed Pokemon with far too many sharp angles, edges, and unnatural neon colors, the Pokemon we've seen so far, legendaries aside, look smooth, natural, and their colors are easier on the eyes, and they are far more cuddly. This isn't surprising when you remember James Turner no longer works for Game Freak. The designer of Naganadel, which looks like Waspmon, and Guzzlord, which looks like a statue of Mr. Krabs that Squidward built in an episode, now is working on a different game, Lucky Hero, which looks like it takes place in Andy's room from Toy Story 3. You really can't help yourself, can you, Jimbo? Even the box legendaries look pretty good for box legendary standards. Sure, a little over designs, but box legendaries have looked that way for a while, at least since Generation 3 with Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza. The character designs are pretty good too. The player character looks like a natural evolution of the previous player characters, less chibified and more natural plain anime. It also looks like character customization is back, not surprising as it's basically a standard feature by now. The rival character, Nimona, looks adorable. They seem to be going for a big sister thing with her, appearing to be a bit older than your player character and having been a trainer for a little bit longer. Will she get the type advantage over your starter, however? This is the important question after all. That, and will she be an ass butt? That one's a bit doubtful though, as we seem to be stuck with friendly rivals. Hopefully she's more like Barry than like How. She has the potential to be the first rival since Blue to beat you to the champion. And the professors look alright too. Yeah, I didn't misspeak, there are two professors. Which one depends on the game you play. This could mean we see more version differences, like how Ruby and Sapphire had slightly different story content, or how some locations in the Unova games were version dependent. If this is the case, it makes getting the second version for yourself a better investment than it has been in the past. Pokemon, even in the best of time, has been one game for the price of two. If they can diverge the games enough to justify a second $60 purchase later, they can really save the tradition. Granted, this could be wishful thinking. I mean, Diamond and Pearl remakes fit both games onto a single card, the only difference being a single line of debug code. That brings us to the story. The website advertises the Pokemon series takes a new evolutionary step, allowing you to freely explore in a richly expressed open world. Now this could be a bit of a red flag. I do plan on talking about the open world trend in the future, but on the other hand, this could be really good if it's done right. Going further from the website, it says you're free to explore at your own leisure and not in a dictation by the story. Now, this could also be a red flag, but this is also too ambitious for Game Freak to honestly do. In actuality, I expect this to be more like RPGs like Final Fantasy and The Witcher, where there are side quests and optional storylines, while the main quest is still an A to B to C narrative. Finally, is the multiplayer. It seems you can open your world up to friends and make the game a sort of mini MMO. I like this idea, it has promise. Though if they get carried away with it, it could easily turn into Fallout 76. Especially if you pair it with the open world thing. Now to be completely objective, we have not seen everything yet, and there is still some hesitation among the fans, myself included, despite my praises. So what can be done then? Game Freak has a lot of ground to gain back to make us forget that you cannot spell their name without EA. First off, the National Dex. I already discussed the mistake that it was cutting it from Sword and Shield. Go watch that if you want. Please. The core of Pokemon's identity is, was, and always will be a creature collector. To have a creature collector without all of the creatures just aggravates the fans. Next is we need to see that the fans are being listened to. The best way to do this is to bring back fan favorite features like the Versus Seeker, the Deck Snap, Mega Evolutions, and so on. We don't need all of them back, but at least one or two to show that they're listening and they're willing to learn from their mistakes. It helps that the Versus Seeker is in recent memory with the Diamond and Pearl remake, so it's likely it could return. We'll have to wait and see. Third is the story. Pokemon has been lacking in this department ever since X and Y, and it's been hard for them to recover. Swords and Shields just felt tacked on, and its villains were an absolute joke. Both the supposed villains and the actual villain. With it being advertised as open world so hard, this could be something we have to compromise on, but after Legends Arceus gave us a pretty decent story, Game Freak may actually surprise us. Finally, no premiums. We buy the game for $60 and that should be all we need to pay. No timed events, that can be done through patches. No DLC, or if the DLC is there, it has to be worth buying. Extra story content, extra Pokemon, that sort of thing. And the DLC shouldn't be developed until the main games are already out. That should be your priority, making the main game actually worth the $60 we have to pay. And please, dear God, no more third versions or sequel versions like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. If we get Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and it's just the same game with a few extra tweaks and bells and whistles, it's really going to kill Game Freak as a company at this point. Do I have hope?
Don't.
Don't what?
Don't give me hope.
Yeah, hell to the no. But I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised. Hopefully we can talk about this again when we get closer to release in a positive manner rather than a negative one, but time will tell. It's been the Koopa Man. Game on.